Alright, I'm gonna start this video off with a spoiler warning, just to be mindful of the few people who still haven't been able to see the movie yet. If you're one of those people and you've somehow avoided spoilers for this long, I'm proud of you. And what words do you have muted on Twitter? Please, I would love to know. After a month of letting it sink in, Spider-Man No Way Home sits very comfortably in my top 5 Marvel films, and I don't think I'm alone in that sentiment. But from the memory wiping to Peter having to start from scratch, the web slinger's future is pretty open-ended. Hey, it's Patrice, and today we're going to explore what could come next after No Way Home.
I was thinking that maybe we should all, I don't know, like go on a double date or something.
Oh, we broke up.
No, what?
I'm pretty sure we've all seen Spider-Man's origin story more than once, may that be through the comics, the TV series, or previous film adaptations. Part of the discourse surrounding another iteration of Peter Parker was the possible fatigue of seeing dude getting bit by a radioactive spider once again. And that's why it was a really smart choice in my opinion to start the trilogy off without all that, and instead diving right into some web action. Even so, it always felt like there was something missing, an important element that made Spider-Man, well, Spider-Man.
I'm just, feel like I could be doing more.
That's why the reveal that this trilogy was the origin story was all the more satisfying. The realization that that missing piece was being built up over the course of 3 movies was the perfect cherry on top to all the other emotions that movie put me through. By the way, that missing piece was Peter not relying on a billionaire and actually being broke as fuck. And one of the reasons Spider-Man is one of, if not the most popular superhero, is the fact that he saves the day but still struggles to pay his rent. He's a selfless and relatable hero. With the ending of No Way Home, it looks like we're finally going to start seeing Tom Holland star in stories where he fills that role. Spider-Man No Way Home was the film that really cemented Peter's independence and values as a hero, being that before he was mentored and supported by adult figures throughout the trilogy. Now that Peter has grown into someone who can hold his own and literally has no one else to fall back on, we could definitely be seeing more mature, independent, and traditional Spidey stories in the future. We might also be seeing more grounded storylines, as in Peter battling city level villains. We'll look into the villains he might encounter later on, but first I want to talk about the opposite end of grounded stories. So put your seatbelt and helmet on, because we're gonna take a trip through the multiverse.
Looks like our dimensions are coming to us.
To say No Way Home did well in the box office is an incredible understatement, with it now rising to be the 6th highest grossing film in history. So you can bet Sony and Disney are taking notes for what's gonna make them more money. With that in mind, since a film about the multiverse made them so much paper, I think we can safely say this isn't the last time MCU Spidey is gonna interact with different universes. Now this could mean we could be seeing more Spider people being introduced to the MCU, which would be great because, I mean, Electro was right, there's a black Spider-Man out there. Or we could get another team up with Andrew and Toby. However, if we include Across the Spider-Verse, we've already got a total of 3 Spider-Verse films, so it's more likely that they might take a different approach to avoid some kind of multiversal burnout. That approach could be having Tom Holland appear as a side character in someone else's film, where he'd probably have to use his experience from No Way Home to guide that hero and take care of some multiversal bad guys. This would also be a good way to show off Peter's growth from the first 3 films, from a kid who needed guidance to a leader guiding other heroes.
Wow.
Since we're already talking about the multiverse, I think now is a good time to question how a piece of Venom symbiote. I think I said it right. Symbiote. I think now is a good time to question how a piece of Venom symbiote stayed in the MCU while the rest of him vanished. Like, shouldn't it all go back to the other universe? Or was there a tiny crack in Strange's spell that allowed the symbiote to stay? Sorry, not here to discuss how that whole thing works. Look, I'm just thankful that the corporate overlords at Sony were kind enough to let the other corporate overlords at Disney borrow the character. So let's just ignore all that right now. This is probably the most obvious possibility of where Spider-Man could go next, since it's explicitly shown to us in the post-credit scene. And unless they decide to just tease him and not follow up like they did Scorpion, then we should definitely be seeing Venom soon. This could mean we could be seeing a Eddie Brock variant for Tom Holland to go up against, or hopefully some kind of Venom Spider-Man team up, since they've done that multiple times in the comics. It's also possible we could see Tom Holland donning the black symbiote suit again like in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, and this could bring out the built up bitterness and anger we saw a bit of in No Way Home. There's a lot of ways they could go about incorporating Venom into the MCU, but let's take a small step back and take a look at the universe the character is already established in.
His head and his feet and all of his teeth.
What?
What was that?
What? Nothing.
So at first this video was only going to be centered around the MCU, but after a little bit more thought, it's definitely worth discussing what could come next for the Sony-Verse. No Way Home revitalized a lot of interest in both Andrew Garfield and Toby Miguire's Spider-Man. And believe me, demands for an Amazing Spider-Man 3 and Spider-Man 4 have been everywhere since its release. Garfield himself even said that he would be open to reprising the role. In the Happy Sad Confused podcast, Garfield went on to say, "In terms of moving forward with the character, yes, I am definitely open to doing that. And again, it would have to be something very unique, very special, and of service to the audience and service to the character." Again, Disney and Sony tend to follow wherever the money goes, and since there's a renewed interest for the previous iterations of Peter Parker, future appearances shouldn't be written off the table. I think what may be most likely is Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man guest starring in the Venom, Morbius, or Craven films, since we were shown evidence that a Spider-Man does exist in the Sony-Verse. Same goes for Miguire. He could make a surprise appearance in one of those movies. With Sam Raimi directing superhero films again, with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, there's always the possibility we could see some kind of conclusion to the Raimi line of Spider-Man flicks. On top of that, there are already talks of Tom Holland's Spider-Man also appearing in the Sony films, so they could also take that route. The only problem I see with them continuing the stories of Garfield and Miguire is the fact that 4 Spider-Man cinematic universes would be going on at once, and I'm not sure the general public is ready for all that. It might cause a little bit of confusion. Plus, we were already given some kind of closure for both of their stories in No Way Home. So in my opinion, if they were to make a return, it wouldn't be in their own movies, but as guest stars in others.
He didn't tell me. I figured it out.
Oh.
MJ and Ned will definitely play huge roles again in the future of MCU Spider-Man, but it's likely that for a film or two they'll either play minor roles or won't show up at all. The weight of Peter's choice just wouldn't be as impactful if they chose to dive right into making the two characters major parts of the next films. So for now, the two will probably enjoy their time in college oblivious to Peter's existence, as sad as that is. This will give them the opportunity to live their lives without being affected by Spider-Man shenanigans. But just like in the comics, Peter and MJ are definitely going to get back together in one way or another. There's no question there. What I'm more interested in is the future of Ned, okay? He has the potential of taking the mantle of the Hobgoblin like his character does in the comics. This is a theory I've been seeing going around a lot, but if the MCU decides to go the same route as the comics went, Ned won't be the actual Hobgoblin, but will be brainwashed and serve as some kind of body double to hide the real one's identity. And if things go this way, Ned won't really turn out to be evil, and probably will end up keeping his promise to Peter. Also, I really can't see Ned turning out evil in the first place. When he made that promise to Peter, I believed him, okay? That kid is just too lovable. He doesn't have an evil bone in him. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Ned learned a bit of magic in the movie, so we might see him being mentored by Wong or Strange in the future.
Need a photographer. Hey, kid, you want a job?
Spoilers for Hawkeye in this one. So like I mentioned earlier, we'll probably be seeing more street level villains for Peter to go up against. I won't spend too much time talking about this, mostly because my dude Michael King just did a whole video about it on the channel. And if you wanted more in-depth discussion on some possible villains that could appear in the future, you should definitely check it out. But just for a quick rundown, let's go through a few. We know we'll be seeing Venom in some way. Scorpion has the potential to finally appear in the next movie. Maybe. We've got the Hobgoblin, Black Cat, or even Chameleon. I was honestly hoping that with the Matt Murdock cameo and William Fisk return in Hawkeye, we might get to see Spider-Man and Daredevil teaming up against Kingpin, since the two practically share the villain. But with the way the show ended, that's probably not gonna happen. But who knows, Kingpin is a tank. Being shot point blank might not be the end of his character, and we could see him come back in another Spider-Man film. Crossing my fingers. Anyway, No Way Home was a pretty solid ending to the trilogy, and I'm really excited to see where Kevin Feige decides to take the web slinger from here. Just some notes for the writers. I'm not telling you how to do your job, just suggestions. Maybe in the next trilogy, get Peter some therapy. I think he would really benefit from that. Like, my man needs it. My man needs some help. Alright, that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching and stay webbing.